I welcome you all for this session. In the previous session, we have seen the Henry Fayol's 14 principles. So, Henry Fayol's principle, as we discussed, it is applicable to all levels of management, it is applicable in all departments, and there were few criticisms also, but irrespective of the criticisms, even today many of the organizations are making use of this Henry Fayol's 14 principles. Fine. In this session, let us discuss about bureaucracy as well as neoclassical theory. Say bureaucracy. So, it implies an organization characterized by rules, procedures, impersonal relations and elaborate and fairly rigid hierarchy of authority. So, here the organization has a structure and people of work to work within their boundaries. So, whatever the authorities have stated, so within the jurisdiction they have to work and they cannot go beyond the boundary and work. So, people have to follow the rules while processing the work. They cannot make their own decisions, whatever the decisions that is given, so within the framework they need to work. So, the main contributor to this bureaucracy is Max Weber, and the advantages of this bureaucracy is specialization. Say, as bureaucracy offers valid basis for dividing work, people can specialize in their respective fields and show improved performance. As the work is given to them based on their specialization and all the rules and regulations whatever is framed would be given to them and they would be working within that. So, as they are working with their specialization, they will enjoy their profession and you could see the better results with regard to their performance. Next is predictability. So, elements of bureaucracy like rules, regulations, training and other things enable to bring stability to organization. Say all these rules, regulations and the training whenever it is required would be given to them and all these lead to the stability to make the organization more strong. And democracy, people are selected on the basis of merit. As people are purely selected on the basis of merit, favoritism and other aspects is not given much weightage. So, whatever they will be at the top positions and they will work according to the rules, they will not go beyond the rules and they would be working with their specialization and totally they will be working to achieve the organization goals and absolutely no place for favoritism. Let us see the disadvantages of bureaucracy. Say the first disadvantage is rigidity. It is inflexible because the name of the rules, people may even get away from their responsibilities. Yes. So, it is not flexible all the times because sometimes whoever is in that position may take decision beyond their jurisdiction. So, this is one of the disadvantage and the next disadvantage is impersonality. So, bureaucracy emphasizes mechanical way of doing things. Okay. So, according to the rules regulations and these rules and regulations are glorified in place of employee needs and emotions. So, I could say this is the major disadvantage because we are working with the human beings in the organizations where the moods will be, there will be swings in the moods of the employees and it is the duty of the higher authority to look after the rules, to look after the employees' moods and their emotions. So, much importance has to be given which is missing in this bureaucracy and just they are treating the employees like machines and the work is through the mechanical way. Okay. And red tape, say everything is recorded on the paper, whatever the things you do will be recorded on the paper and files move through endless official channels resulting in work delays. Say whatever you have to take the decisions, so whatever the rules you have to make, so every day in your day to day life in the organization, you need to send that through like writing, and that has to be passed on table to table, where you need to complete the formalities, which consumes much time. Therefore, this is also a disadvantage of bureaucracy. Now, let us see the neoclassical theory. Okay, in 1920 and 30s, observers of business management, they began to feel that incompleteness and short-sightedness in scientific as well as administrative management movements. Say scientific theory is given by F.W. Taylor, as well as administrative principles is given by like F.W. Taylor, Henry Fayol, and these movements were mainly focused on activities of workers and activities of managers. But the importance of group relationship, social aspect of workers were ignored. No scope was given to the group of employees where they would be working in a team. The emphasis was clearly on discipline and control rather than morale. They just looked from this perspective, where they forgot the employees group. So, in order to compensate the deficiencies of the classical theory, human relations theory came into existence. As under this we have Hawthorne experiment, which is important. It is given by Elton Moyo. So, in 1927, the Western Electric Company invited a group of researchers led by Elton Moyo to join their Hawthorne plant. So, the researchers carried an experiment at the plant and later became popular as Hawthorne experiment. Okay. In Hawthorne experiment, they conducted 4 experiments, that is illumination experiment, relay assembly, test room experiment, interviewing program, as well as bank wiring test room experiment. Let us see the illumination experiment first. So, here illumination experiment is with regard to the light. So, in this phase, the impact of illumination on productivity was tested. So, how did they do this? So, experiments were done on a group of workers. So, remember, Taylor as well as Fayol did not consider the employees in a group, how they would be working, how would be their relations. So, Elton Moyo thought of this concept. So, the first one is illumination experiment. So, here see a group of workers with various illumination levels were set, and results were uneven. That means to say, okay, by improving the methodology of the experiment, one group called control group, which worked under the constant level of illumination, and other group called test group worked under changing level of illumination. Let me make it simple. See, the concept of this illumination experiment is employees, a group of 5 to 10 employees, okay, in 2 batches. One batch called as control group, the other one is called as the test group. Say control group, the illumination, the light, okay, the light was constant, the exact normal working conditions, with the same light they worked. Whereas the test room, okay, the test batch, there were 5 to 10 employees, a group of employees, let us assume. So, group of employees, they were working, where they were working, like the light was reduced a little one day, increased the other day, the normal light the other day. So, like this the test group was worked with different types of lights, whereas the constant group, the control group, was worked under one light conditions. But here see, the productivity of the test group increased each time when the intensity of the light increased. Okay. Test group, see, when there was the less light, the low light, okay, or very light, okay. So, in the dark they were unable to work, but when the brightness was increased, their productivity level also increased. But okay, productivity also increased in control group, which received no added lights. That means to say, Say under normal light also employees worked and got the same production, whereas in the test group when they decreased the light there was less production, when they increased light there was high production. That means to say they both were working almost same. So the researcher felt something beside lighting was influencing workers' performance. So he was of the opinion that say not just this light is a matter for them to work, something else is important for their performance. So what are the findings of this experiment? The experiment finding is there is no correlation between productivity and working conditions. The productivity of two groups were compared and found that illumination affected productivity only marginally. Very less margin of difference was found between two groups. Okay? And they were of the opinion that light is not only the matter, something else was required. Next is a relay assembly test room experiment. So here in this phase, they aimed at knowing not only the impact of illumination on production, but they considered the other factors like working hours, rest hours, duration of physical hours, physical conditions, etc. In the illumination, they concentrated only on the light, whereas in the relay assembly test room, they considered the working hours, the rest hours, as well as the working duration of the physical conditions. Here, workers who were friendly to each other were selected. A group of friends selected for this experiment who were asked to work in an informal atmosphere under the supervision of a researcher who acted as their friend. Say in the initial, when I began this experiment, I told group of researchers, okay, along with the Elton Moyo, they came to the Hawthorne plant, they started their experience. Here, among those researchers, one researcher was this group, with this group, and the group which were selected was a friends group, and one researcher was, and they asked to work informally where there was no leader to supervise. But there was one researcher who was very friendly with them to observe their work. Okay. That researcher who acted as their friend, philosopher, as well as a guide. So during the study, several variations made with increase in the working conditions, and the productivity increased and remained constant even when the conditions were brought down. Some conditions, working conditions, made high, made low, made some changes, but still the working conditions, the productivity was increased, remained constant. See, even though they are a group of friends at the workplace, their work, their production did not go low. Okay, everybody was talking to each other, they were enjoying their work and they were productive also. And let us see what is the, again, their findings. Okay, they found there is no relationship between production and rigid working conditions. If you make them very strict also, they will work irrespective of the friendship, and if you leave them very free, also they will work. Okay. So they found the key conclusion was that social and psychological factors such as group cohesion and interpersonal relationships significantly influenced workers' productivity. Okay. And the next one is this interviewing program. So this is the third experiment done by those researchers. So here in this phase, researchers wanted to know the basic factors responsible for human behavior. And here almost 2000 workers were interviewed with the questions like with regard to the supervision, working conditions, living conditions and so on. So a questionnaire was framed, almost questions were asked to almost 2000 employees, and the study revealed that workers' social relations inside organization had influence on their attitude and behaviors. So I could say as human beings are working in the organization, this social relations inside the organization is important, because we say there are 24 hours in a day, whereas 8 hours is to sleep, 8 hours is for family and 8 hours is to work. As major portion of your day would be spending at the workplace, you need to have cordial relations with each other, and social relationship is important in the workplace. So, what is the finding? Say worker social relationship improves productivity. They found when you live them, when they are with the friends and when they have the cordial relationship with each other at the workplace, they perform better, and which leads to increase in the productivity. And the next one is banking wiring observation room. So, this phase of research aimed at making observation of 14 men, making terminal banks of telephone wiring assemblies to determine effective of informal group on productivity. So, it was observed that group evolved in its own production norms for each individual workers, which were lower than set by management. Okay. And employees working, the performance was less compared to the set standard by the management, because of this workers would produce only that much, defeating the incentive system. This system protected the slower and weaker workers from being criticized and removed from the job. Okay. So, those workers who tried to produce more than the group norms were isolated, harassed and punished by the group. Okay. Say those workers who tried to produce more than the group norms, say if management was given, say you need to manufacture, you need to produce 8 units. Okay. If you produce more than 8, you were isolated from the group and you would be punished. Say like employees, other employees who were doing slow, they were scared of removing themselves by the management. And what was the finding? Human relationship through informal group play a vital role in the organization. Say if they are very formal from morning till evening, you cannot get your work done. Sometimes this grapevine communication or the informal group activities will also help the management to bring the production to a higher level. Okay. And lastly, let us see the contributions and limitations of human relations movement. Okay. There is no correlation between improved working conditions and high production, and production norms for workers are set by their group and not by time and motion study done by any specialist. And a worker does not work for money only. Yes, factors such as affection, respect from co-workers, that is what we discussed just in the previous session. So, today millennials are not expecting only the handful of salary, they are expecting the respect. Okay. And co-workers play vital role in influencing the behavior, and it is employee centered, democratic and participative style of leadership is more effective than the task centered relationship. Okay. So, this is what is today people are expecting the democratic style of and participative style of leadership rather than the autocratic leadership. Nobody is liking autocratic leadership today. They prefer, and employees, say we have a concept like workers' participation in decision making. So, whatever you do in the organization should be communicated, conveyed to the employee group. And lastly, the limitations of this theory, they considered only human variable and ignored the other elements. They considered maximum concentration was for the human working in the organization, and other factors they totally did not consider. And in emergencies where quick decisions are to be taken, human relations approach cannot work is the opinion, is the criticism, is the limitation made by others. So, there ends this unit, and for this management and organizational behavior, you could refer these books: Essentials of Management by Kuntz, McGraw-Hill, and Management by V.S.P. Rao and Hari Krishna, and Managing Organizations, Professor Sridhar Bhatt and Navya, and Principles of Management by Tripathi and Reddy, and Business Principles and Management by Mr. Tyagaraj, Suman Singh, Dr. Chirand and Dr. Kavita BN. So, if you go through all this, you could you are able to score more marks in the exam. So, prepare well by going through all the slides as well as by referring the textbooks. Okay, thank you all.